was addicted to that cult. It was a proper cult. In that cult, you want to be number 1, 2, 3 because you know you're going to be for the promotion, the bonus, the salary increases, the better car.
Good day, everyone, and a warm welcome to the second ever Parallels podcast brought to you by Africa Scotland Business Network. Interestingly, this is our first podcast where we interview one of the leaders in our fantastic member companies. Today, we've got the CEO of Africa for the global brand High Tech. So a warm welcome to Gary De Vogel to the show today. Gary, how you doing?
Thank you, Claire. I feel honored that I'm the first outsider of the business that can be interviewed today. So
No
don't
pressure.
know how I got the honor, but wow.
And I see we've like swapped roles. I'm wearing my High Tech t-shirt and Gary is wearing his Africa Scotland.
What a mutual respect.
That's what it's all about. A healthy relationship goes two ways.
Yeah, true story.
Gary, let's like dive straight in there. You've been a member of ASBN for the past 2.5 years now. It's been an absolutely brilliant journey for our team to get to know you, the brand in Africa. You told me a really interesting fact a couple of days ago when we were doing the brief for this podcast, and that you became the CEO of Africa for High Tech when you were 27.
Yes.
How did that come about?
Oh, that's it's a journey and a half. I think I was very fortunate, born with a deficiency in my brain, which gives me 20% more roots. So it's like the iceberg, and the iceberg is a little bit more above water. Made it hard at primary school to go to school because I got kicked out a lot. But yeah, on the other side, luckily my mom pushed through and they did a intelligence test, and it came out that I was hoogbegaafd, as it's called in Dutch, which translates to Einstein. and a friend of mine likes to say it that way, but I found it a little bit awkward. But it got me far in the sense of I didn't have funds to go study at a private university, but I loved one private university called Nairobi Business University. And I got a scholarship from Deloitte. But to obviously repay your debt, you got to work from 18 already. So you have to do the double work.
Right.
Never scared of working. And that's where the journey started. And I got poached after 5 years. A lot of interviews, and I never, or questions to go on an interview, never went up until 5 years. And it was a crucial moment where I was addicted to that cult. It was a proper cult. In that cult, you want to be number 1, 2, 3 because you know you're going to be for the promotion, the bonus, the salary increases, the better car, and anything is arranged for you. If you need a gift, it can be arranged. If you suits needs to be steamed, they can be arranged. They want to make your life as easy as possible. And I was quite addicted to that high performance culture, up to a level that my mom thought I'm gonna bury at a very young age. And after 5 years, I think the charm of that went away. I still love for what they've given me, where they gotten me, because I think without I wouldn't be there at that early age. Have a love-hate relationship. Love what they gave me as an equipment for life. I think I hated it at a certain point. It was tough. It was 2-3 hours sleep. It was 14 coffees a day. You would literally miss every holiday, cancel your flight plans. You would not eat at home. You probably gotten overweight very quickly. So it was a one-sided relationship. You know, you need to give it your all. But in that same breath, I could see that I had affinity with business, but as an auditor and a consultant, you can't actually do the changes. And I fell in love with what I saw in the business from doing the audit, what I could improve, but I couldn't. So I wanted to jump in the business. In the same breath, there was a partner that once got a phone call at like 12 o'clock in the night from his wife. And she said a name that I can't say. Is it your family or is it Deloitte? And he answered straight, Deloitte. And I was like, oof, that is serious. And the next day, they obviously filing for divorce, but he went on as if nothing happened. And I was like, wow, what is life about? Life should be a little bit more in balance. You can be a high performance, maybe underperformance, but a little bit more in balance, not like 24/7 one thing, and you can't actually enjoy what life has been made for, because life is beautiful. And a mate of mine called me, and he said, what do you think of this type of job? And I said, this sounds amazing. International company, group finance controller. You do the annual financial statement, cash flow. You have assistant controllers in all the countries, and it's going to be amazing. You're going to love it. And I went for the interview, and I did not like the person that I was in the interview with. And he asked me a very straight question on the IFRS, and I knew the answer, and he said, it's wrong. Oh, that's odd. And I went home, and I said, no, it's not for me. And I got a call from the founder, his son. He was global CEO, and he says, you need to come throughout the day, because I didn't take any interviews throughout the day, because you can only go so many times to the dentist. And he called, and he sounded like a very vibrant guy. He says, please come throughout the day. You have to experience this office. And I got there, and I fell in love with the brand immediately. There was shoes being thrown, and the best cappuccino, and there was a vibe and an energy, and they were pushing things out, orders, and it was just marketing was throwing some papers, and product was selling some shoes from the balcony downstairs, and it was just a mad rush, and I loved it. And I sat in the meeting, had a lovely chat with the global CEO and the president, and Frank van Wezel, the chairman, walks in, and I had a suit and tie, and he had a suit and tie, probably a meeting with the bank or something. I had a colorful tie, and he had a colorful tie, and he looked at me and he says, where did you study? I said, Nairo Business University, sir. He says, you're hired, gentlemen, we wrap up the paperwork, see you next month, and he walked out.
Wow.
And within that couple seconds, he just stunned me. I was like, I need to meet the guy. I need to understand him. Who is he? How can he make a judgment call that quick? And that's when our journey actually started. And then it went actually escalated quick.
It's amazing what happens when you let life flow and you just go with the kind of wave of life. It's amazing where you can actually end up. And I believe that life is a mixture of fate and destiny. You have to kind of like ride the wave of life, but you also have to like set your intentions as well. And now you're 31. You're a whole like decade younger than me. And for once, I'm actually the same height as you. Gary's actually quite tall. Gary, you're not just a CEO. You're a father to beautiful Donna. You're a stepfather to gorgeous Mila and Holly. You're a loving husband to Nina. A lot of people, and I myself was included when I first met you, you've achieved so much so young. And I remember thinking, wow, how did Gary do that? Can we like back up, maybe talk a little bit about your childhood, your upbringing, your parents, and things that might have happened in your life that have almost fast-tracked you to becoming an overachiever? Am I allowed to say that?
Thank you. I think when you asked the question, I needed to dig a little bit deep, because I think it's something that I didn't think it came from my youth. I always thought it's just like I don't want to fail. I want to push, and I want to bring the results. But when you asked the question about youth, I needed to stand still. And I think there was one moment where one of my cousins was trapped by a lover boy, and the lover boy sent her to the UK. They were going away for the weekend, and she got a nice new pair of sneakers with some air in the middle. Of a brand, I don't know if I can say. Multi-purpose, that's for sure, that the shoe was. And it was filled with stash. And just when they got at the airport, he said, I didn't get my passport renewed. I need to go back. But you know what? I feel so sorry. Please you go and enjoy the weekend on my cost. And she went, and obviously oblivious what was about to happen. And she got into one of the most horrible jails in the UK. And her mom was in Suriname, where my mom comes from, South America. So my parents took it upon themselves to try and do this case for her, to get her to the Netherlands, where it was a lot safer, less gangs in the jails. And that sort of preserved them for years. And I think it was the attention seeking. You wanted attention. So my sister did it by being rebellious, and I did it by getting the best grades and doing everything that was asked to be the good boy. Very proud of where my sister's now. She really done an amazing 360 from being the naughty child to being an incredible mom of 4 kids. I admire her for that. But there was a time where it was very, very tough in her life, extremely. And I think I didn't cry often in my life, but I think if I need to say one thing, it's something that happened towards my sister, my dad's passing, and the birth of my child. Those are the three happenings that I cried. I can count them on one hand. And I think that's where it initiated. And then I just kept on pushing and pushing. And I remember being in high school that they asked, what do you want to become? And I had no cooking clue. I said something that if SARS comes, or the tax liaison officer, internationally named, that I don't need to think of how I'm going to pay the bill, but which bank account. and the teacher was just gobsmacked, like, which kids tells that? But
Right.
I know that my family was struggling sometimes. My parents did all right, but a lot of the family around, they were struggling and were borrowing each other and fighting that they didn't pay back this and asking for another one, and cross loaning, which I don't know how it works. If you have a loan outstanding with the other, but the other one has a loan outstanding with you, can you just eliminate it? But I think that's where it fueled. And I think when my dad took me out of going to the normal school, because I was put in a hat to go to a special school, I think it helped a lot, because I couldn't mingle with my dad at all at the beginning. But later he became my hero. It was an absolutely amazing guy. They were very loving. When my dad passed from cancer, he left behind a woman that almost can't marry another man. I mean, she's still single. Loves him dearly. Really treated us with a lot of respect. Learned me a lot of morals. And I think I was a nerd, but he turned me into being social, and that I can enjoy people and spend quality time with them and spar. And I think he was a good story of coming out of the ditches and grew himself to a general manager, having a good position, and loved the game of chess in business. And I think that's where I started to, after like 12, 13, started to really, really enjoy sparring with him. And later on, when I worked, sparring with him about my work. And I left, or when he left with me, a best friend. He was really amazing. Yeah.
Wow. I'm going to focus on how this has contributed to your leadership style. I see you as someone who's very people-centric in their leadership. What do you think in your leadership style brings to the brand of high tech in Africa?
I think when I arrived, it was quite a small business, very much family business. There was no real structures, but I think the leadership was a bit old-fashioned, aristocratic. It was a bit, everything needed to be micromanaged, and I think that's what I brought from the Netherlands and Deloitte, that you need to teach the people to do the work, that you can scale and build. And I think when I arrived in South Africa, I needed to get used to how people were working first, because I had a position not as CEO as yet. I think it was 25, and I was director of Africa, so I had 3 brands underneath me. But South Africa, I only had 2 brands, and Namibia and Botswana, which was around about 1/3 of the business. And I enjoyed working here, but I went from millions of euros, a lot of staff, billable hours, to a smaller complement. But then I got a temporarily Benelux, Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany, Luxembourg, as interim MD when we were selling the business, which I did successfully with the team in the Netherlands. And then I had a very small team. And I actually enjoyed it, but after a couple of years, I got a little bit bored. The results were there; it was growing fast, and that was actually the only part of the business that grew. And then the decision was made: you need to head the company. That's where I could instill, I think, the new high tech, and people centric. You're absolutely right. It's definitely underrated by a lot of people. To give them, room for failure. It's fine as long as you come clean and that we can fix it. Or spar, and if I really believe we need to go left and you think you need to go right, I'll give you the opportunity to go right. Explore, learn from it, because only then you'll truly understand the matter to the T, and next time you will make the right judgment calls. And I think that evolved in. I got a compliment the other day, and I really, really enjoyed that people think that it's not been seen, but it is noticed by staff. I walk around every morning and I first greet everybody and I know the kids' names, and I know the dogs, and I know if somebody's sick, and I know if somebody's doing well at school, if somebody has problems, and somebody came to my office and said, you know what, there's a lot of people that tell me that that's their highlight of the day. That CEO is not in an ivory tower. He's there in the trenches with us. He knows, he helps where he needs to be. And I converted myself, my title, to a PA. What do you need to succeed? Every director or head of department. And the problem solver. When the shit is too big, like an elephant, and the shovels are not good enough to carry it, okay, let's do it together.
Right.
And I think that they have that freedom, and they can spar, but they can be raw, they can be honest, they have no fear of failure. I think that just escalated, and we knew from a vision that we had a lot of things to change. We were an out fashion brand. We needed to steer, but we were dependent on key accounts to steer that every time a degree to the right side. And in season to season, we changed and youngered the brand. And I think we're on the right trajectory. We grew ×3 in a very short amount of time, from 2020 to now. I think now we have fixed the business. Now it's maintaining, and we announcing our February. We're announcing the strategy to propel, and hit a figure in our mind that we think we're worth. Yeah.
Fantastic, Gary. I'm going to bring the conversation into an African context now, but I first want to share a small world story with everyone. Serena our producer at Clyde Broadcast, might cut this out, but we actually met through an existing member, First National Bank, and I remember FNB said, you've got to meet Gary from High Tech. You guys are so aligned. And I was like, okay, cool. And it turns out when we met that we actually used to live quite close to each other. And we spoke, the business, we spoke about the business network, High Tech, and it was great. You subsequently joined the ASBN. And then you said to me, we shared our stories about, we're both European. We've both made South Africa our home. We've both got South African partners and we've had children here. And he said to me, Claire, you've got to meet my wife, Nina. And I was like, I would love to. We both had like tiny babies at the time. And he said to me, she's opened up a deli. And I was like, brilliant. Like, I love good, healthy food. So I made a beeline to the shop, right? Met Nina, and I'll never forget it, Gary. Like, I just walked in and it was like knowing her. I felt like I'd known her my entire life. So I started like sharing really personal stuff with her immediately. I was like, I don't even know this girl, but she just makes me feel so comfortable. So I went home and I said to my hubby, there's a new deli in our area. Like, you need to meet the girl who runs it. She's amazing. And she's married to like a new member that's coming into ASBN. And so when I took my husband into our shop, it turns out they actually knew each other. They went to school together in Polokwane. Now, for people who don't know where Polokwane is, it's a way up north in the back of beyond in South Africa. Oh. And my husband actually played the guitar in a band at Nina's 16th birthday, and they hadn't seen each other for over 20 years. And I'm also going to drop a really quick story about how much of a legend Nina is. Sorry, don't mean for Nina to take over this conversation, but
she's a legend.
I went to her shop. My son was about 5-6 months at the time. I took him out his car seat. I take him into the shop with me, get my bread, get my healthy food. I spend most of my income on like good, healthy food. Chatting away to Nina, I leave the shop, take my groceries, put the ignition in my car, close the door, and Nina comes running out the shop. She goes, Claire. I look up. She said to me, you forgot your baby. And I was like, thanks so much. And this is how much of a legend Nina is. There was no judgment. She's like, it's cool. I got your back. I'm also
because
like...
the week before she forgot the baby on the street while she was packing. And then a customer needed to say, aren't you forgetting your baby? Oh, bloody.
Happens to the best mamas, right?
Pregnancy brain, for sure.
Yeah. So coming back into Africa, we've both made our homes here and our businesses here. Can you share a success story that maybe sticks out for you, Gary, of perhaps entering a new African market, or you've made incredible sales in a particular country that you didn't think?
Yeah. We actually started with a company to distribute our brands in Algeria, of all countries, and it's beautiful. I have to say there's quite a stigma sometimes around Algeria, and there's actually a beautiful video on YouTube. It says how ugly Algeria is, and so they have not a nice culture, and then you see beautiful footage of the culture. You have shitty architecture, and there's like the most beautiful buildings. Like nature's not really cool, and it's proper Mediterranean gorgeous. And they invited me to come and see their business, and I was absolutely blown away. So professional, ahead of a lot of countries in the sense of some corporate funding available, FX is available. They already have multi-chains, motor-branded stores, and we started this relationship in just a month before COVID happened. And it grew so fast. And eventually we needed to meet up in COVID. So we met up in Dubai because we couldn't fly there. They couldn't fly here. So we met up in Dubai, brought 4 suitcases of samples, no clothes at all. I mean, we were just like refurbishing t-shirts. The laundromat was working overtime, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the same t-shirt. To just fill all the suitcases with samples. And these gentlemen were here now 3 weeks ago, and we signed a 15-year deal for a minimum amount that is really, really significant. They're going for it. So that's a beautiful success story. But Africa comes with school fees. I have paid my school fees. You sometimes travel and you get $200,000 out, and you're happy. At least pays for the ticket and the hotel and some spare cash for whatever the case may be. And sometimes you hit the lottery. That's just how it is. And sometimes you get captured in countries and held hostage. Those are the lesser stories.
Yeah, a little birdie told me that you were actually held hostage in Uganda.
Yes, correct.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of a rookie mistake. When you're young, you wanna achieve something. I now only deal when I can confirm it's a professional company. They know their roots, but we're dealing in a couple brands, which is like safety uniform boots as well. And this was for uniform boot supply. And what we normally now do is we don't do Gmails and Yahoos. We just, in Africa, sometimes that can be serious business with a Gmail or Yahoo account. We limit it to, there needs to be a corporate profile, website, proper email address. But at that point of time, the gentlemen just knew their stuff. They knew exactly what ENI, so certificates, for the people that know, what kind of millimeter leather, what kind of corporate composite toe they needed. So, and they were asking all of these questions, and then they sent documents. And normally from the documents, you can see that it's fake. And we've seen many in West Africa, fake documents. And this looked legit. So at that point, I went to the back then CEO and I said, look, I've been filtering through all the leads that you had over the past years, but this looks serious. What do you think? And he says, this is the amount that I would travel. And they ask for payment up front. They never ask you to fly in, meet the generals, and I fly in, and I get picked up by this massive Mercedes, get dropped off at my hotel. And at that point I was still very much, I want to support the locals, so I didn't go with a very big chain of hotels. I saw beautiful hotels called Mackenzie Suites. I still remember to the day of yesterday. And I meet this lady, and she's proper English. You can hear it from her accent. And I said, I've met you somewhere. And she looks at me, I've met you somewhere as well. And with the merger and acquisition that we were doing in 2016, she was for the other party in the UK, because it was sub-licensed to a firm in the UK, and she was doing that side. So we rekindled, and I said, what are you doing here? And she says, no, I own this hotel. My dad passed away and left this legacy, and I thought, for my mom, I really wanted to continue running, so I'm co-managing it with my mom. I said, wow, what a fantastic story. And she said, what are you doing? And I tell the story, and she says, you need to be careful here. This is not just a normal African country. And later on, they actually claimed the land that her hotel was built on. I still had contact with her a couple of years after. It was quite insane. But she was saying they have legitimate contracts, but sometimes they just don't pay, which they now lost a court. They won a court case that they didn't pay $1 million to a marketing agency, and they got away with it because the judges were on the books as well. And I'm not really selling the country at this point, sorry, but it is a real story.
Right.
She says sometimes they have a real order, but they know already who they're going with. They're already filling their pockets left and right, but they sell it to 15 other people for a direct payment. I was like, thank you for this information. And we go for the first meeting because this is now a sourcing company that sources these products for the government. And the general arrives at this condo with a chopper. There's probably 40 soldiers at this little meeting hub. So I'm like, this is serious. He goes through, he also knows his game. And I can see from his details that he's one of the coup, the people that did the coup in Uganda. They call it, I think, the 54 stars or something, the notorious 50, the 50 that did the coup. And he was a 4-star general, and he hops back in the chopper. He says, this is what I want, and sort this out, blah, blah, blah. Meet with the Secretary of Defense Force. And he was doing actually a speech in Uganda and Kampala. And in that United Nation, whatever speech, he walked out and he said, and we had a chat, and this is how it's going to work, and it's all legit. And the next day we go into the second phase of the chat to finalize everything, dot the I's, cross the T's, and he says, he turns completely. He says, you said yesterday that you're happy to go in an open tender, but we need to go close. This is what we need now. We need $12,500, $15,000 US now. You're in my rule now. You're my country now, under my rule. This is how it's going to be, and you're not leaving this country until it's done. And just like that, poof. And the two sourcing guys, you could see they're trying to talk it in the car a little bit right now. He's a man of astute, and you're going to get the order and just try and get it wrapped up. And the conversation goes on that I'm now locked in the hotel. The guys are in front with guns or whatever the case. And I start playing a game. I knew I need to get out. So I say, okay, I'll sort out. I don't have signatory power for that level. My credit card only holds like $1,000, so it's not going to work. So I need EFT. In the meeting straight away, I changed because I knew I'm not going to get out. And I get a fake drawn EFT. Your colleague that is standing here that can draw up nice things. We have a similar beautiful person that saved my life in high tech that made a fake EFT, an old US dollar invoice to somebody.
Wow.
And I said, I'm gonna clear this. This is gonna be cleared on Friday by the South African Reserve Bank, 9 o'clock. My flight is at 7. Can I please go because I need to fly to here and here and here and here, acting as if I'm all busy and the money's done. It's deal's done. And they said, fantastic, yeah, you can. And I get a police escort to the airport. And at the airport, behind everything, there's a gentleman with guns, and he says, hello, Mr. De Vogel. Good morning, Mr. De Vogel. They all know my name, and I'm like, oh, this is too close to comfort. They know my name in the airport. They never know my name in any airport in the world. And I'm in the plane, 7 o'clock. The plane doesn't go. 7:30, the plane doesn't go. 7:45, plane doesn't go. I start sweating. 8 o'clock, plane doesn't go. And I said to my finance manager, my CFO, I said, please send an email at 9 o'clock that the South African Reserve Bank has bounced the payment. Plane doesn't go 8:15, 8:30. Now my stomach turns. I think they're holding this plane on the ground. 8:45, it's still on the runway. Engines are out. Eventually 8:55,
oh my
goes
word.
in the air. I had an immediate, I went to the toilet.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
A little bit sickish, but after that I felt great. What a relief.
I'm not surprised. Is the moral of this story, do not replace graphic designers with Canva?
Nope. That is the moral of the story.
Gary, I'm just
Don't
glad
do the trick.
on a professional and personal level you're still with us. And I'm going to finish with a big question. I hope that experience doesn't influence this question, but how has Africa or living in South Africa, how has it shaped you as a person?
Look, I always say South Africa, and I'm going to be very honest, it's a beautiful country. You have everything in the world on your doorstep. Yes, if you have a little bit more than the bottom 10%, you have some disposable income to enjoy it. And I'm being very honest. South Africa has the most incredible white culture, beautiful, incredible food. It is a lot cheaper than ordering a beer in Glasgow. I love it. I love the people, love the cultures. I think, I don't want to go into politics, but I think the population is united as far as can get. They're embracing a lot of their differences in cultures. They know that the country needs to build up. I think somewhere down in the top, they haven't realized it yet, that we're ready to move forward. And I'm saying we because I feel like a South African. And Africa as a whole, I think it's the last continent where globalization still has to happen. So growth is going to come from here. Most places in the world, there's already multi-change of 400, 600 stores. South Africa is already there with multi-change of 400, 600, 800 stores. That hasn't happened in the majority of Africa. I think South Africa has a unicum in that. So from a company perspective point of view, if you're looking for 10x's, you're going to find it here. You're going to find it in the continent of Africa. And the professionalization is happening everywhere. I mean, 5 years ago, I've been in Nigeria. I couldn't find a single multi-branded chain shop. I'm there a year ago. I see already 20 on one store, 10 off the other store. It's starting. The professionalization is starting. The population is gatvol, as they say in Afrikaans. They want just a normal, safe haven. They want a working country. It doesn't matter who, what, how. They just want it to work. They want electricity. They want water. They want cost of living to be in order, and they want to build. And they're not lazy. They're working hard. I mean, R1 million here, the effort it takes you, and I mean bottom line is $1 million overseas. That's my honest feeling. So yeah, I think we're in for a good ride. A quality of life which I think I've missed in overseas. I think you get it a lot here. The balance, the social. There's always place for another one. That's what I love about South Africa. There's always, we'll make some extra food. You're welcome. In my home country, it's sort of at 6 o'clock they look at you. You need to go home now because we're going to eat. And I love that openness. I love that you're always welcome, and there's always, money for an extra beer.
That's it.
There's always, you can stay for an extra wine. You can take one of my wine. It's just very sharing culture, and I love that about South Africa.
Is that really how you feel when my family are at your house and it's like 10 o'clock at night and you're like, yeah, you can stay for another beer?
Yeah, no, your family's amazing. And your kids are always welcome.
Thanks very much,
I love them.
Gary.
They're sweet. And your husband doesn't drink that much, luckily. There's some that I will only invite once every while. I mean, my stock needs to uplift after that a little bit.
There we go.
I need a 13 check to fill up that liquor cabinet.
But not with Bernard. Well, Gary, here's to the young leaders like ourselves. I'm going to own this. And to everyone else in the public and private sector who will reverse the rules in South Africa and Africa to make it the best continent in the world. It already is the best continent in the world. Gary, thanks so much for joining us for episode number 2, but member number 1. I really appreciate it. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you, Claire.